nobody's quite sure what the skill or the art of the drummer is, in fact. And most people in rock are very nervous of drummers. They're not quite sure what it's about. But when it's under the oscilloscope, when it's under a computer screen, of course, there is control. And everybody likes control, except the performing artist, who tends to be happy with a degree of chaos. And you're already beginning to tell the kind of side of fence I'm on. I prefer, and I'm more comfortable, in the area where something might happen. You might just do or say something which makes me do or say something that I didn't know that I could do or say. And that's how musicians actually get better. They hear themselves react in different and differing situations, and that can become great. It's a bit like holding a mirror up to yourself and saying, well, you know, I don't really like what I see. Ugly old thing, you know, you see it shaving every morning, and you think, but through music, you can change. So I like that. In other words, I don't really care whether it's your idea to start with or not. It's what can we do with it, and particularly if you've got 4 or 5 guys. How can you tweak it? I mean, there are those who say pretty much everything in music's been done. You know, it's very difficult now to find interesting new angles. There are only 12 notes, and they tend to have been combined an awful lot in the last 300 years. So you're sort of throwing the same salt and pepper and, you know, chili in the air, and it's the way you mix those ingredients that becomes important. And it can be little things. It can be a tiny little way you play the cymbal, a funny little thing that you do on your guitar, and it can also be extremely big things, the extremely big picture, which is great. I mean, there's one that's worth citing, which is reggae, of course, which was until very recently associated with black folk. It was black music from Jamaica, Jamaican origins. White bunch of guys called the police come along and say, how about white reggae? I mean, it was so screamingly obvious that somebody had to do it, and Stuart Copeland, the drummer in the band, did a very good job of sort of upgrading the tempo, and they suddenly you have, it was staring you in the face, but white reggae suddenly appears. So it's the thinking what you do with the ingredients. I spent many years working with a strange guy you'll read about in the book called Robert Fripp, who's an unusual man, and you think I'm an intellectual? Forget it. I'm your down-home pub guy. I mean, Robert is out there, though, with ideas, and they're very good ideas. And pitching a group is a lot like pitching a movie. I don't know about ads, but it's a lot like pitching a movie. You know, if you come to me and say, let's form a group, I'm going to say, great, let's form a group. What's it about? And I need to know on the back of an envelope, in simple words, in about 4 sentences, what this group is about. If you can't tell me, we don't really have a band. A band's not about anything. Anybody can have, you know, a blues group, but we need something more than that. So he says, great, it's going to be 2 guitars, bass and drums, and a funny kind of instrument called the stick, actually, which has treble notes as well as bass notes. At this point, I am not impressed. I'm waiting for the punchline. You know, everybody has a group like that. They all sound the same. What's the punchline? And the punchline is, here's the thing, the guitars are not going to play any chords. Now that is a big difference. That sounds like a little thing to you, but that's a big difference. That means they're only going to play single notes at a time. When you do that, your chord is aerated and opened out like that, so it looks a bit like a string vest. Instead of plang, blang, a dang, dang, a dingy, dingy, ding, diggy, bling, diggy, ding, diggy, 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 strummy, strummy, strum, which is what most pop music is, suddenly it's this string vest of people playing repeated cycles of notes. And now we have a completely different sounding thing. So just that little tiny limitation, that little tiny sting for the story makes you say, I'll follow you to the ends of the earth. Interesting, isn't it? Just what is a group about? You know, very important. All my ideas are kind of in relation to and related to other people's ideas. Yes. So you say let's do this, and I say that's great, but why don't we do that with the tennis ball as well? And you say, but how about a rugby ball? And we go to and fro, and I like that. And often when we were making music, We start with something pretty boring, and the guy says, yeah, it's okay, but why don't we do that? And you go, oh, okay, well that now means that I've got to do that, because otherwise that's not going to work. Okay, but now somebody else is unhappy, so why don't we do, the third is, why don't we do that? Okay, well now I've changed that. So pretty soon you've forgotten the ground floor level. And that can happen over 3 hours, over 2 hours. You've just forgotten where it was you started, because it didn't matter where you started. You started. As they say, the hardest thing in any creative endeavor is to take the first step. Oh, well, that's hard. Then you've got to keep going, of course, and keeping going is important. So I suppose King Crimson, one of the better bands I was in, would spend just that bit longer going, but what if? And does that sound any good? Well, not really, but we could make it sound good by doing this, etc. So 4 levels up.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Different people have